Are you doing that at home? Yes, let's do it. And we're going to clap in just a bit for our guest. In fact, if she was standing in an auditorium in front of you, I believe you would give her a standing ovation at the end because she will empower you. Yesterday, did you watch the show yet? Oh my gosh, John O'Leary, one of the most magnificent motivational speakers you will ever see. If you didn't watch the show and you don't know his story, you need to go either YouTube. I put it up on YouTube and X, Rumble, as well as, of course, our Facebook page. John O'Leary's movie, October 10th, Soul on Fire, in theaters all across the country. John, my friend, thank you so much for, as I expected, another beautiful show. So that was yesterday. I told you we had 3 shows in a row that were going to be amazing this week. So Annie Yatch is going to join me in just a bit. She is a true transformation specialist. If you've ever heard of Northstar Leadership, we're going to unlock your own power, but we're also going to talk about trauma. You know, as a coach, I've talked about timeline therapy and people being stuck at a certain pattern in their life. She's going to go through all of that from a personal and professional standpoint. We are going to ignite what might be dark inside of you. So all of that coming up. We'll also tell you about some big things coming up with the show where you can join us in Chesterfield next week. Good morning, Kathleen. Yes, and for all of you that sign on, if you're new to the show, it's a very interactive show. So we would love for you to comment, ask questions. Good morning, Stephanie. Feel free to pop on and say hi to your community because this is your show. So yes, if you're new to the show, I'm your host, Monica Adams. The real Monica Adams is the show because what? We need more people to be authentic. Authenticity is a big thing. We're going to run through some news you can use if you're outside of our St. Louis, Missouri or Southern Illinois area. Let us know where you are and how the weather's looking where you are. Here, oppressively hot and in fact, very dangerous. I'll have to ask Annie what she thinks of our weather in just a bit. Today, 97, folks. I'm not kidding when I tell you this is very dangerous. 97, but the heat index, look at that, 105 to 110. Tomorrow, 99 for real temperature, but heat index again near that 105 to 110 aspect, but it does not change. Look at the heat index all the way through next Tuesday. So this pattern's not going to stop. And our St. Louis Cardinals, by the way, coming back to town, playing at Busch Stadium tomorrow night. Those lows, by the way, are in the upper 70s all the way until we get to next Thursday when finally some rain moves in and will drop to 69. So if you think this is stopping anytime soon, it is not. Again, we run through all the things for you to take care of yourself. If you're going to exercise, and obviously I'm a big proponent of that, please do so very early in the morning. Even if you step out right now, it's already very sticky and humid, but at least better than the middle of the day. Walking those dogs. Again, please do not leave the dogs in the car. Don't leave children in the car. Check on the elderly. I know you know the deal, but we have to say it over and over again because this is when we start talking about issues. And if there's any athletes out there, I hope the coaches are taking care of them. Again, early morning, late into the evening, or having to cancel practices altogether. Good morning, Julie. Good morning, Missy. Yes, good morning as you sign on. Thanks for being a part of the show. Share with everybody. Tell them we're on for them. And we've got a great show lined up. Did you see this? First, we go from Malcolm Jamal Warner. And now Ozzy Osbourne has died at the age of 76. Yep, the rocker known for gloomy kind of singing, pioneering the band Black Sabbath, became the throaty, growling voice. Drug and alcohol ravage, though. Heavy metal, died yesterday, just weeks after his farewell show. He literally, a lot of people have a ton of videos they were posting yesterday all over social media, like, oh my gosh, we just saw him. He was, again, 76, but he had suffered from Parkinson's disease for a long, long time. And you know, they always say, especially in the entertainment world, that you hear about one actor, actress, singer that passed away, and they say they always come in 3. So we had Malcolm Jamal Warner, who again was Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show. Now Ozzy Osbourne. It'll be interesting to see what happens next. Did you know this part, though? I love this. Ozzy was a huge blues fan. That was many years ago. The most recent was 2019 when he was seen on social media wearing his Blues jersey, of course, after the Blues won the Stanley Cup. So rest in peace to Ozzy Osbourne. I actually, in his honor, a little homage to him, was listening to a little Crazy Train last night when I was getting the show ready. So if you hadn't heard that, that's some of the water cooler talk news. This one, important, we always tell you about recalls and ice cream bars sold right here in our area, Missouri and Illinois. They're being recalled due to potential listeria contamination. Rich Ice Cream Company has recalled the Chocolate Crunch Cake Bar, Strawberry Shortcake Bar, the Rich Bar, Crumbled Cookie, orange cream, fudge frenzy, cotton candy twirl, savagely sour blue raspberry, and then savagely sour cherry, as well as the cool watermelon bar. So there's a lot of these. You need to check your freezer. They've been recalled due to a potential listeria contamination. And again, Missouri and Illinois are in the list along with several other states and then the Nassau and the Bahamas area. So check that freezer. Remember, whenever we tell you about a recall, they ask you to take it back to where you purchased if you want to try to get a refund. If you don't want to go through that hassle, then take it back, and just throw it in the trash can at that point. But if you don't want to lose your money, take it back and tell them, hey, I know this is part of a recall. This one, it scares me because a lot of you go to ponds, creeks. There are actually, I'm sorry, we'll do this one first. 5 million pools recalled due to a drowning hazard and a death reported in Missouri. And then we're going to do another one that has to do with you going to creeks and a brain-eating amoeba that killed a woman. So the pool one, first of all, Bestway, Intex, and Polygroup. They've issued a recall for certain above-ground pools. So if you have an in-ground, it doesn't affect you, but above ground, 48 inches or taller due to a drowning hazard. According to the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, 9 deaths have been reported due to these pools, which have sold 5 million units since 2002. CPSC says the compression strap that surrounds the outside of the pool legs may create a foothole, allowing a child access to the pool, posing the drowning risk. Now, they believe that 9 children between the ages of 22 months and 3 years have drowned after gaining access to the pools via those the footholds. So this is what they look like. Look closely. If this is yours, the pools have been sold like Walmart, Target, Sears, Lowe's, Kmart, the Home Depot, Big Lots, Costco, as well as maybe online. Maybe you got it at Amazon or Wayfair or Bestway USA. The incidents, by the way, occurred in several states, including right here in Missouri between 2007 and 2022. So again, pretty big deal. We try to give you stories that make you go, wait a minute, this is an issue for us. I told you from that to this. A patient died from a brain-eating amoeba, according to the hospital. This was in Columbia, South Carolina on Tuesday. They had a patient infected with amoeba, recently dying. No further details immediately released regarding that case. But as you see on the screen here, these are tips to reduce the risk of the brain infection. The first one is always assume the risk in warm, fresh water. Avoid water activities during the warmer months. Hold your nose or use a nose clip, and avoid digging or stirring the sediment into shallow water. So how scary, right? How dangerous. I mean, it's not like the first time we've ever heard from that. In my years of doing news, we would talk about these cases. While they might be a little bit more rare, they do happen. So just, again, heed the warning. Well, if you're a fan, and again, I'll ask my guest in just a second if she's had Emo's Pizza yet, because we're known for that here in St. Louis, that Provel cheese, the headquarters of Emo's in St. Louis, for sale. Since 2016, they've operated their main distribution and production facility on the over 4-acre campus near the City Museum. And now they're seeking a new long-term 15-year master lease with renewal options. According to the St. Louis Business Journal, Emo's would remain at the site as part of the sale. And again, just tell me this much. Are you a fan of Emo's Pizza? If you're from St. Louis, they say it's sacrilegious to not be. I'm not a fan of the thin crust, so I guess I'm in that sacrilegious role. But again, it's just, I'm not going to say it's not my thing, and if someone gave it to me that I wouldn't eat it, but it's just not what I would normally go to. So you tell me, are you an Emo's fan? If you're a Coca-Cola fan, well, they're confirming their cane sugar version of their trademark cola is coming to the U.S. after a push from our president. Trump said in a social media post last week that Coke has agreed to use real cane sugar in its flagship product in the U.S., which had been sweetened with high fructose corn syrup since the 1980s. So, they're making this big push from a health standpoint. Again, still want to keep the sugar down, but at least they're making the natural switch. And I'm happy to see this one. This gentleman finally, 80 years after his death, getting the honors that he deserved. A World War II prisoner of war laid to rest in Alabama. Private First Class Norman Thomas was a 20-year-old prisoner of war, and it was in the Philippines at the time of his death in 1942, but his remains were identified by DNA testing earlier this year. He was a member of the 48th Material Squadron when Japanese forces invaded in the Philippine Islands in 1941. And again, again, finally getting the honors that he deserved after his family was notified of the positive identification. He was properly buried on July 17th. Sir, first of all, thank you for your service, and I'm so glad he finally got his proper burial. All right, in sports news, I watched the game all the way to the end. The Cardinals losing, unfortunately, to the Rockies. Final score was 8-4. Same two teams today. It's an afternoon first pitch at 2:10. And then what's on tap? Not a lot from a National Day of calendar. National Lemon Day, Gorgeous Grandma Day. I love that. And National Vanilla Ice Cream Day. Well, this is a day I'm sure you're going to want some ice cream. Hot pool. Again, we've got hot days ahead. So if you're here in our immediate area, you might want some ice cream. Again, check the recall list, though, in case those ice cream bars are part of it. But today, ironically, National Ice Cream Day. And that's how we do it. Get you all wrapped up in some news you can use. No negativity. Starting your day with positivity and hope and getting you to be the best version of yourself. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to find out from our guest. Annie Yatch is my guest when we return.
Feel good, you work out at Crunch. You don't go here, because here feels bad. But here we help you feel good, feel strong, feel rejuvenated.
Join Crunch Fitness today.
And don't forget, when we do our workout or wellness Wednesdays, we film at Crunch Fitness, welcoming them aboard because we have more and more sponsors that are loving taking their brand and pairing it up with ours. You can see right here a thank you to all of our sponsors that are part of the show. And our first national one is, in fact, Crunch Fitness. So get your workout on, and probably, as I mentioned before, stay in because it is so crazy hot. All right, if you're just tuning in at 7:12, good morning to you. And now it is time for us to take you in the version that you are right now. If you're a little unhappy with where you are, well, we're going to get some tips to turn that around. Let me welcome my guest, Annie Yatch. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Welcome aboard. Annie is with Northstar Leadership, the CEO and a transformation specialist, helping thousands take their lives from where they are and then elevate it up. So Annie, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so pleased to be here, Monica. I love interacting with you. You're just so much fun.
Oh, thank you. So where do you live?
Well, usually I'm coming out of Camas, Utah, which is close to Park City area, but I was born and grew up in Michigan.
In Michigan. Okay. So when you came into town, did you go, yuck, it's hot here?
I could not believe the heat. I was like, I don't know how we're going to get through this. This is quite intense,
It is. And welcome to St. Louis, because we sometimes could have 4 seasons all in one day. You're like, wait a minute, wait, where am I? so sorry that this is how you were welcomed into St. Louis.
Okay, I got to tell you, I've never tried the pizza because I like that deep dish pizza because I'm from the Midwest. Yep. So,
Well, before you leave, we're going to tell you that you have to try Emo's. You have to have some toasted ravioli, and you have to try Ted Drew's. And everybody else, anything else that you should try from our area? That way you really know St. Louis.
Perfect. I love it. I love all the advice, all the guidance. Please give it to me.
Okay, so let's do this. So Annie, give me an idea of when you knew, from a passionate standpoint, that you wanted to get into this field before we get into the tips for everybody.
Sure. I think really the reason why I got into this field was because I've been obsessed with observing behavior and trying to help people change the behaviors that don't work well for them. Mm-hmm. Because I think ever since I was a little kid, you watch people get in their own way all the time. And then as an entrepreneur, I started watching how if I went into a company and I worked with their executive team, literally you could teach the most amazing leadership techniques, the most amazing team performance techniques. But if the person was stuck in their subconscious, then they couldn't really input and use and apply everything that they were going to be learning. So I realized you have to really start with that subconscious reprogramming in order to get the person to their best life ever.
So we're going to talk, and you see it in the description today, about the behaviors that we have, the trauma that we have. You heard probably in the very beginning when I started the show about timeline therapy. That's the way I look at it, right? So I can ask somebody, what is your chronological age? And they might say 40 or 50 or 30 or whatever it is. And then going through and finding out where their trauma was, you take them back to that. And, again, it's not like a little snapshot where you move on within a second. You have to stay with it and then find out where they just had their growth stunted, right? And then try to pull them forward. So how often, from a personal and a professional standpoint, as you work with people, do you see that that in fact is where they're stuck?
I would tell you that almost every single person I've coached for the last 15 years, and I've been doing this for a long time, every single person has a trauma pattern that started between age 7 and age 10. And when I talk about trauma, nobody likes to hear I have trauma, but what I like to say is trauma is just a perceived loss of control. So if you think about all the moments in your life that have been a perceived loss of control, there could be thousands of those. But the biggest one that sets the course for your entire subconscious life, and your subconscious runs 11 million data points a second,
Mhm.
and your conscious is only 40 data points, so quite a deficit there. Literally, that starts between age 7 and age 10. So I've yet to meet somebody who doesn't have it. I've had a lot of people tell me, I don't think I have this. And then we discover something really massive. So it's just fascinating to figure out, where does your brain take you when your subconscious is running the show?
Well, and Annie, we've talked a lot over the last probably 5 years, ever since the pandemic, where people started saying, I'm struggling, right? They were isolated. They were away. Kids were away from going to school. Parents were not able to see their child born. People weren't able to go and see someone's life lost, right? Grandparents, etc. And it isolated, and suddenly it became, I'm not okay. But the great thing is people started talking about the mental health side of I'm not okay. And I'm sure you tell them it's okay, but at least they need to come and start to talk about it. Communication, putting it out on the table is key. When you talk about your 15 years of working with people, men and women alike, is it still a struggle to get men to open up?
It's really interesting. I haven't had that issue with men as much. I actually have more men that are clients of mine than females sometimes. The struggle for men is that if you can set a clear container for them and you can show them where their subconscious brain is blocking them, they know that that is going to link to more success in business if they resolve it. So they're ready to get and do that work as long as they feel safe with you. The issue I find that for women, it's harder for us sometimes to invest in ourselves because we're not sure that we're actually going to do the work. So
Mhm.
that's the thing that sometimes breaks my heart. But for all the women listening, like, this is the best work you will ever do, because it's literally the thing blocking you from relationships that you want and from creating the success monetarily that you want to as well.
If you're just tuning in, again, you see on the screen Annie Yatch, Northstar Leadership CEO, transformation specialist, helping people. I read your bio and was looking through your website and all your information. And I want you to tell the story of the person who literally lost millions. How do you, I mean, that's the thing. People need to hear these stories of literally falling flat on your face and having nothing left to eventually rise again. But when you're in the moment of losing millions or losing people, losing everything around you, I think it's hard for them to see their way out because they're only looking at that moment. So tell that story, and then how do you get people to again, take the steps forward?
Sure. So, just a quick story here. There was a gentleman I've been working with, and he had made the same decision. I think it was in a 3-year cycle. And so he had decided, and he didn't know he was doing this, but because as a little kid, he felt like he had to prove himself to his dad, he was rushing into deals, not doing the due diligence, wasn't even aware that he was racing towards an outcome because he wanted to be able to prove to himself and say, well, I got this deal or I did this thing. And so he had a $9 million error that happened because he didn't do the due diligence on a deal. And he was like, gosh, if I could just get out of this space of losing all my money and then having to build it all back up. But that's what happens when you're in a subconscious pattern that is a trauma pattern from childhood. So
Mhm.
he lost $9 million. He came in, I think, in the midway through that next 3-year cycle. We were able to stop that from happening. And this man literally changed his entire business. He's making more money than he ever has. And he's actually now trying to be a coach to bring this information to more people because he's like, Annie, this is the biggest breakthrough I've ever had.
Look at you, paid it forward.
That's the whole goal. All I want is for everybody to be at their best, to know what their trauma pattern is, because once you know that, you actually start to understand, what is the value that I'm bringing to humanity?
Mm.
What is my place in this world? And what have I learned from these lessons?
Yeah, and again, everybody as you're watching, whether you watch live or you're rushing off to work, if you watch later, feel free to ask questions and we'll get those to Annie. But again, this is your show. So if you're struggling somewhere and you're like, yeah, I want to be successful in my personal life and a professional life, but here's what I'm going through, feel free to drop comments in. Let's run through some of these. I love this particular slide talking about leading at home like you lead in business and reducing conflict. I think conflict sticks in our path. It's like the debris that's thrown in our path so much. So go through some of these really powerful phrases that help strengthen our connection, not only again at home, but as we transfer off into business.
Well, this was the biggest breakthrough for so many couples because I coach a lot of couples in business. And what I find is we create a lot more conflict than we need to subconsciously. And that shows up in our business performance, it shows up in our personal home lives. And I'm like, if we could just shift how we interact with our spouses at home and create a more stable environment there, then everything gets easier in our business life. So, the biggest conflict resolution technique that I've ever learned that I wanted to share is when you're in conflict with your spouse or your significant other, the key for men to say to women is, I am so sorry that I hurt your feelings. I am so sorry I hurt your feelings. And for men, you want to say that over and over again until the woman is able to express what she's feeling. Because for us as women, it takes us a while to melt, right? And then for women to men, most men feel very disrespected. And so it's our job to say, I'm so sorry that I disrespected you. Even though, let me tell you, ladies, in the moment when that is happening, it is very difficult out of your own way and go into that space because in your mind, you're like, well, I don't think I disrespected him. But for men, the core wounding is around a lack of respect. And for women, the core wounding is around somebody not validating our feelings. So that's very powerful to know that. And that takes conflict from a 90% reactivity state down to something more like 10 to 20%, which is what we all want. There you go.
Powerful comments, because this is what I want you all to hear. It's the way we respect or disrespect someone. And if it's in a relationship standpoint, like Annie's saying, working with a lot of couples, it's also not doing the blame game, right, Annie? It's not, well, he did it or she did it, and it's all their fault, but taking responsibility of your actions within that relationship, again, business or personal.
Always. It's always taking a moment to say, what is my part of this?
Mm-hmm.
What can I acknowledge? And I like to have people actually look in a mirror and say, I am responsible for this. I am responsible for X, for Y, for Z. Because once you own it, you can actually get yourself out of a lot of the trauma patterning.
What are you most proud of in your 15 years of helping, again, all the people that you have? And we'll talk about if someone's saying, oh my gosh, I really need her help. We'll give you all the information of how you can get in touch with her. Here's her contact information. Again, calling, texting, emailing her, where you can follow her on social media, as well as going to her website. So jot that down if you're getting some aha moments here. But from a proud standpoint, because again, when you realize that you're not transforming just one life, but thousands of people that you worked with, take some of because people love testimonials, take some of the testimonials of what you have heard from people. And you can find those, by the way, on her website. But I always like to find from the coach themselves what you feel most proud of.
I think what I feel most proud of is the fact that whether it's one call with somebody that dramatically changes their life, or it's a private coaching relationship that I've been in for 6 months with someone, I think the biggest thing for me is when I watch the individual in that split second understand that their life will forever be different now because they understand what's been holding them back. That's literally the best feeling in the entire world, to watch someone know that there is now hope, there is now change, there is a brand new reality they get to live into. And when I watch men, my favorite thing with men is when they start getting more connected to their heart and they start speaking from their heart and enjoying that connection more with their spouse. And then for women, I love it as they start to understand the power and they understand that, the way they've been living has been playing small in comparison to where they could go in this world. So it's beautiful.
Well, and I love the fact that you're talking about connections as we look through pictures of women to women, families, solo, right? We've got to love ourselves first and foremost. How can we help others when we haven't even helped ourselves? But looking at, again, wonderful, beautiful pictures of connection. Do you agree? I've asked a lot of coaches this, that we need obviously our time together, whether it's a romantic side or it's just connection between siblings and friends. But do you think that we need women to women time, men to men time? Because I hear a lot of women going, oh no, I don't go out with girlfriends. I'm going to use an example from a person that's very close to me, and she does now, but years ago she was like, no, I don't want to go out with girlfriends because that means that then he gets to go out with guy friends and I just don't know what they're doing. And it was a trust factor. I was like, no, you need girlfriend time. So what are your thoughts on that? Having our time with our couple, again, our spouse,
It's absolutely essential. We have to have that time with the people that we can collaborate with, feel safe with, love on. They can love on us. I think the biggest mistake we make in relationship is we think that one person has to be everything for us or needs to show up in all the different ways. No one person can show up in all the different ways for us. We need to literally have different people in our lives that give us different things, right? Because if we're not receiving and giving, if there's not that give and take, almost like a tennis match, then we're not in true connection.
Agreed. And there is a difference that you're going to get from that female energy and male energy. But I think that is where a lot of people go wrong. And maybe if they look at that and they explore that with you, it is, oh, well, okay, I need that a little bit. And again, it's not saying that you got to go out and be drinking with the guys and doing things that you shouldn't be doing, because that's where arguments come into play.
Well, I also think that what we're dealing with on a level in society is there's a lack of trust and a lack of communication around those type of things. I think if we learn to communicate more effectively with each other and we learn to trust ourselves first in those situations and explain to our partner the level of trust that we have for every situation we walk into, it can change the dynamic dramatically. It's just there's usually a lack of communication or a lack of internal trust, which is, again, a trauma pattern that if you can resolve it, then these issues don't become issues.
Yeah. Again, if you're just tuning in, look at the screen here. Annie Yatch is my guest, Northstar Leadership CEO and Transformation Specialist. We gave you the rundown of where you can find her, northstarleadershipschool.com, which, by the way, when did that all come about?
Well, all of that started, I had run 3 different businesses and built 3 businesses from the ground up back when I was married to my ex-husband, and I had 2 little boys. So a lot of crazy changes when I went through my divorce about 4 years ago. But this grew out of the fact that when I went through a divorce and those businesses were removed from what I was doing in my life, I immediately felt like every woman, every man out there needs a North Star. You need to have a purpose that is in alignment for you, that you can hold on to no matter what is going on in your life. And so that really spoke to me. And I was like, I hope that I can bring more of that to the people that I coach. And that's where Northstar Leadership came from. It was literally the first time that I really went after what I wanted to create in the world, just based on what I was seeing in all of my coaching.
Absolutely. And by the way, if you all don't know this, as business coaches, relationship coaches, life coaches, whatever you want to call all of us, we truly feed off of your breakthroughs and then use those examples with no names, use those examples to help someone else have the breakthrough. So Annie, I love the name though, right? We all have our true north, right? We got to find our true north. Before we take a break, Marilyn just said, wow, Annie, where have you been? Why have I never heard of this type of breakthrough before now? I feel stuck since losing my husband 7 years ago. I know so many people that are stuck too. Did I miss? Are you doing a seminar here? I presume you work one-on-one with clients. How does that work? Great to hear you. Monica knows how to find amazing people. Okay.
Caroline, it's so great to meet you. Yes, I'm so glad that you posted, because I just worked with another woman who had just lost her husband, and we had massive change for her. So I would love to get connected to you. I would love to help. I do work privately with people. I do have a group coaching program that's starting now for women in I think it's a couple of weeks from now, because I felt like as women, we really need that container. We need all that love, all that nurturing, all that support. And when in our lives have we ever had like that amazing best friend female who stands for us and helps us work through the hardest part of life? Not everyone has been gifted that experience. And so that's what I try to create when I bring this coaching and training into the world.
So Marilyn, I want you to take this down. Again, we're going to take a quick break. Questions, comments, aha moments like Marilyn just had, drop them in for us. Here's her contact information. So you can call or text her, 619-302-0262. Again, Annie at northstarleadershipschool.com, or go to the website, Northstar Leadership School. Follow her on social media, slide into her DMs. That's what the kids say, right, Annie? Marilyn, anything else that you want to elaborate on that? Any questions? We've got Annie here for the next half hour. We're going to go into some of these practical behavior change tools. And again, starting to implement those. We want you to become the best version of you. If you feel stuck right now, again, it's okay, but don't stay stuck. More with Annie Yatch when we return. love you, Crunch, and we want to thank Just Pools as well. You see that it says welcome back. Yes, Madonna and her team from Just Pools in Arnold back on with us, and boy, at the right time, right? With how hot these days are. This is when you probably might start saying, oh my gosh, why haven't we pulled the trigger yet? It's okay. Again, not too late. That is Just Pools. When you drive down 55 and you look over on that West Outer Road in Arnold, that's theirs. And I just, again, you just immerse yourself in wanting to jump in. Now, don't jump in their pool. You've got to have your own. Just Pools, to keep it that crystal clear, they've got 10% off of their chemicals right now, the Crystal Clear Results chemicals, as well as, again, I keep talking about the fun games, the floats. You want to have a little volleyball, basketball game. I just bought some new floats right around 4th of July, by the way. Amazing things there. They do have hot tubs as well, but mainly known for their pools. And so if you want an in-ground pool, please think about supporting those that support us. Again, you want to add some fun features like you're seeing there as well. The water, the fire features. They are also the authorized Pentair warranty service repair station. Give them a call today, 636-464-7110. All right, welcome back, folks. It's 7:31, and if you are just tuning in, I know a lot of you tune in every second. If you have to rush off, be sure to come back. It's the beauty of streaming that it is going to be there for you, mainly on YouTube. Meta does, unfortunately, take, and after 30 days, they delete some of the live shows. So I would make sure that even if you follow me on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll want to go back to this one and hear things. And, you know, if we turn that into an audio podcast, hear it after you've seen it, because you'll see the message in a whole new way. Annie Yatch, Northstar Leadership CEO and Transformation Specialist, our guest. As we went into the break, we wanted to run through some of these. And as I said, as you get these aha moments, feel free to ask questions. That's why we start with the live component. So Annie, some practical behavior change tools. Let's run through these 6, starting with finding ambition.
So finding ambition, as everyone knows, right? If you are not in alignment with your purpose, it's very hard to have ambition or motivation. So there's a tool that I have that's been created specifically to help you find that ambition and find that purpose. Mindset shifts. Mindset really has to do with reframing. Anytime something in your brain comes up that's negative self-talk, we're taking it from that negative place to a positive place. So I might wake up in the morning and be like, oh gosh, I already feel behind today. I have so much to do. Instead, you're going to catch it and tell yourself, you know what? I have all the time that I need. All the important things will get done today. So that's an example of the mindset shift.
Okay. And then running into the subconscious. This is an interesting one. Subconscious rewiring. Oh, did she freeze? Oh, there we go. Okay. Subconscious rewiring. Go through that one for me.
So subconscious rewiring is the most difficult one, because there's always that story that you told yourself when you were a little kid that becomes, you think it's true, but it is actually a I did this just the other day with a young woman that I was coaching who's about to launch a huge business. She had identified in her subconscious that there was this issue where she's like, I just think I'm going to be alone. We pulled it all the way back to her childhood. When she went through her parents' divorce, she equated being alone with being being alone with being safe. And that was the only way she felt safe. And so she was literally creating a business, about to launch a business, and taking that energy of, I have to be alone in how I do this, into that offer. So we had to rewire that whole thing so that when she launches it, she's not in that space anymore. So that's what we did. But that's just an example of how something so small from when you were 7 years old in a divorce situation was literally leading the charge. All of her friends are getting engaged, getting married, having these big launches for their business. And she just couldn't do it because she's been telling herself for so long that she has to stay alone.
So we go from subconscious to conscious.
Yes. So your conscious data points, like I said before, subconscious rewiring is essential because you've got 11 million data points in the subconscious that are working against you. Then you've got your conscious rewiring that addresses the 40 data points of your conscious mind. And that's more when you wake up in the morning and you listen to something on the news and all of a sudden it gets stuck in your brain and it loops on a pattern. That's where we want to interrupt that loop with a bunch of different techniques. So that's why we're always thinking, how do we interrupt the subconscious? How do we interrupt the conscious?
You know what? I'm just going to pause there for a second before we get into right brain, left brain, etc. I have said this so many times, Annie, but since this is the first time we've had a chance to talk, I have told people, do you have any idea how much power you gave all of us in the news? That you wake wake up with us, or you did. Now you wake up with this if you're smart. Now you wake up with positivity and hope and inspiration and guiding light. But back then, if you still do it, I just want you to start breaking. You consume less negativity and surround yourself with more positivity. Because Annie, it really was. They don't even know it, right? The subconscious aspect, they're like, why did the whole day go wrong? And I was like, go back to the beginning. How did you start your day? Oh, with the news. Were you mad? Yeah, I got so mad at you guys and I turned it off. And then I was yelling at my spouse and yelling at my kids and yelling at the dog, and then got in the car and was ticked off at the people that were driving in front of me. And then I got to work and I was mad at my coworkers and mad at my boss. And I came back home and I was exhausted.
Well, all the input, right? Your subconscious is constantly streaming 11 million data points a second with all these inputs. You have to be so careful about what you're inputting into your brain. So really that morning experience for you, if you want to have peace and you want to be in silence and you want to take a moment just to set your day, you have to be careful about what you input in. And even minutes before you go to bed, those last 10 minutes of the day is when your subconscious is most likely to be primed for either positivity or negativity. And then it will help your brain as you sleep cut out things that you shouldn't keep in your brain if you do the work to make sure that there's only positivity before you go to sleep.
You and I need to take the stage together and speak, because what
Please.
I always ask people is to start their day with one word of intention, right? To keep it small, not overload the brain from a neuroscience standpoint and be like, okay, I'm going to do this, 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 this. It's kind of like saying you're going to run a marathon and you haven't even trained to even walk 1 mile. You're trying to get there already. And that's great that you want that advancement, but one word of intention. And then you just said it, one word of gratitude that I have them think about at the end of the night, so that they sleep better and that they erase all the chaos and the toxicity and the negativity that happened throughout the day. You just got to slow it down sometimes, right? And then sleep better and then wake up and it's a brand new day. We can attack the day in an entirely different way. Some people I think just get stuck of, well, my weekend went bad. Now Monday started off. Now the rest of the week is just lost.
Well, I think we have to remember every single moment is a chance to reset,
Yeah.
right? And when I work with people one on one, we do a lot of customized, first thing when you wake up, this is what you're thinking and feeling. And then first thing before you go to bed, this is what you're thinking and feeling. So it's very customized to working them out of trauma patterns to make sure that those 10 minutes at the beginning and the end of the day are hyper focused for each one of their brains.
Absolutely. Again, if you're just tuning in, folks, any comments or questions that you want to drop in, again, if you have to run off, we get it. Maybe do it later when you come back. I love when you all do hashtag replay. Shoot, I wish I would have asked Annie this. It's okay. We can get it to her, or you can shoot her an email. We'll give you all her information again in just a bit. I loved what Marilyn had said and these aha moments that you're getting. I just mentioned. So again, so many people we interact with in life think differently than us. And that's okay, by the way. We need to take from them and they take from us, and we learn together. Let's discuss the left brain, right brain, which always fascinates me.
So the thing I love about left brain, right brain work is that ultimately when you run through someone through a session to work on their left and their right brain, you start to realize that both sides of your brain crave the same thing. If you can identify what it is that both sides of your brain crave, then you have a chance to come into harmony where the brain subconsciously and consciously works better together. So you actually can see more potential. You can make better decisions. So that's one of my favorite things to do with people. I also think that, it's a combination of stacking these different techniques. You start on one side working on your purpose, your ambition, then you build from there with the next piece of mindset, then conscious programming, then subconscious programming. And before you know it, you have so many great tools that are available and you're using them every single day. And so every moment you can reset if anything were to come up.
And then, of course, you get to that last one, which is the desired end state. This is where we want to go. This is we've reached it.
This is such a good one. The desired end state, I actually worked with a lot of the Navy SEAL teams. And what I learned from working with these Navy SEALs is that they would plan for the most elite missions using emotion as their focus point. And I was like, gosh, if we could just help everybody else understand that if you start with the emotional feeling that you most want to feel to be successful, and you ask yourself the question, what do I want to be true? You can literally create a whole new reality from that question and create that emotional success feeling. And this is relevant for you, Bob, who just posted.
Mm-hmm.
You can create an emotional feeling of success that is your North Star, your guiding light as you go into this next phase of your life. So that's why I love the desired end state, because it's based on how the most elite teams plan. And I just sort of backwards engineered, well, how can we use this in our own minds to make sure that our subconscious isn't trying to thwart us?
Yeah, and we didn't get into that whole aspect of the Navy SEAL. I mean, we think about a Navy SEAL, what they have to go through to ever become that. You were around that and use a lot. Again, we can look at highs and lows, and she just talked about going through a divorce, and people can look at that as, oh my gosh, I've been there, it's a negative. But what can we pull from it that we can use as strength moving forward, right?
What is the lesson? Because
Yep.
everything is just a lesson. Honestly, there are no mistakes that anybody makes. Everything is a chance to learn. So we're either learning or we're growing. That's it.
Yep.
Nothing negative, learning or growing.
Yeah, and let's get to Bob. Bob, by the way, said, how can Annie be a resource to my group of job seekers who have drifted into a deep, dark hole of depression due to either a toxic work environment or due to a long period of unemployment? They need a new purpose, but first need to eliminate those weeds of negativity in order to be positive and upbeat in their job search.
Well, the most important thing that I would tell everybody, Bob, that you're working with is they need to create a new reality. So the old version of who they used to be, they need to let go of and be willing to look at to decide, okay, here are all the negative things that I've been believing about myself, say on one side of the paper. On the other side of the paper, all the positive things that they to reset in their life. And then they have to choose to live into that new version of themselves. I call it the reality document, where we write down all the things that are amazing that we've moved on from, we've gotten through, we've, all these lessons really do impact our confidence level. And so if you can reset them in that confidence of who they get to become in this job search, and you can have them ask the question, what do I want to be true? What do I want to be true in my life, and live into that instead of letting them drift into these darker depressions? It actually gives them a question to reframe their mind every moment of the day.
Again, we're looking at the only way to accelerate your leadership, reveal the parts of you that subconscious self-sabotage. Again, the aspect of beating yourself up, berating yourself. There's a lot of people, Annie, as you probably know, they can't even look themselves in the mirror and find one kind word about themselves. One word that actually catapults them forward instead of going backwards, whether it's trauma from parents or bosses telling them that they're worthless. And they believe that. They literally, my hardest part, Annie, is how much power people give others.
Correct. I agree. And that's where, it's up to us to really own what we're doing to ourselves and to realize the difference in a good day versus a bad day is literally a shift in what you believe to be true. And so that really changes the game. But for all the men listening, a great book is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Very fascinating discussion of the subconscious. And for women, if you're in a lower place and you're trying to up-level yourself and get out of it, there's a book called Change Me Prayers by Tasha Silver. And every day you get a new prayer to be thinking about, whether you're religious or you're not. It's a great way just to reframe some of these thought patterns that are happening. So if you don't have a lot of money you can invest in yourself, you can always invest in a book that allows you to take yourself to the next level.
And I don't have any moderating going on right now this morning, unfortunately. Will you say those two again? Because I know a lot of people always ask me, wait, what'd she say?
Yes. For men, two books. I'll actually say two that are fascinating and super changing for your life, supercharge the change in your life. The first is David Data's book, The Way of the Superior Man. Okay. And the second book is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Okay. For women, if you want to change your relationship with wealth and abundance and bringing more success into your life, there's a book by Tasha Silver called It's Not Your Money. And then there's also her book called Change Me Prayers, which is a fascinating book to help you reset your subconscious and your conscious mind every day as long as you follow the daily practice.
Fantastic. When the show wraps up, I will go back and I'll grab links to those because that's what we like to do for everybody. We hold their hands and say, here you go. You can Google those on your own. And that's the beauty of streaming. When this wraps up, you can just go back and be like, okay, here we go. This is what she said. We're going to run through other aspects of what she can do for you. And Bob, you are so welcome. Julie said, thanks for all you do, Bob. And Sindra, earlier, I saw your comment. She said, woohoo, my Crunch Fitness opens today. That's what I heard. Congratulations, Crunch in St. Peter's. She won a 1-year free membership, by the way. We're giving one away a month through the end of the year. So right, no excuses, and I will hold you accountable, Sindra. I'll ask Annie about that aspect. So when we look at how we can help ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually, because Annie was telling me she was looking into my background and she's like, I love that you're faith-based, and she is as well. So when we are lost in any part of that triangle, physical, mental, spiritual. When one part of it is completely off, we're not balanced, right? So I want to know your feelings on how we get back to that balance, especially when one of them seems to be tugging down so much. So again, don't go anywhere. We are visiting with Annie Yatch, as you see here, Northstar Leadership CEO, Transformation Specialist. We've got about 15 minutes left. So if you've got a question, if you've got a comment, drop it in now, or we can get to it again when we wrap up the show. I'll make sure that she gets those. I'll let you know how to email her, where to follow her, etc. So don't go anywhere. Welcome to the mobile Monica version of the Real Monica Adams Show at my favorite restaurant. There's something about a coffee house that's just very warm and welcoming.
Gives you that sense of community.
What are you most proud of since you've opened it?
I cry easily. I'm thankful for everybody here.
You opened the door during the middle of the pandemic. You got the best Italian restaurant in the United States. Here in St. Louis, you put us on the map. Does it scare you? Go through fear?
Terrifying.
So how do you get past the fear?
We find something to laugh about.
And yes, laughter is the best medicine. We're talking about Mobile Monica's, and I mentioned that I'd love to see you next week, by the way, July 31st. We'll be at the Tea Spout. It's going to be amazing. So if you want some breakfast, they have breakfast all day. If you want to come for lunch, an early lunch, our broadcast is going to be at 11 a.m. I would love to see you. Come on by. I always ask you to support those that support us. If you ever tried mushroom coffee or mushroom tea, by the way, maybe put that on your list, and then just come and immerse yourself in just how peaceful the place feels. We had Amber Hamilton on telling her backstory a couple of weeks ago about the better rest, the natural energy, immune boosting, what it means. And I'll talk to Annie about this in just a second, about how important it is to, again, make sure the mental, physical, spiritual side is all taken care of, the nutrition side as well. So the Tea Spout in Chesterfield, I'd love to see you join us on the 31st, 11 o'clock. Grab your friends, date night, work friends, whatever you want to do. It's going to be a blast. 7:47. Welcome back again. If you're just tuning in, you've missed a really wonderful show. Annie Yatch has been working with us, getting you to transform, and she does work with people all over. So if you are interested in working with her, I know Marilyn's asked some questions, Bob's asked some questions, others saying thank you so much. Aha moments. Yes, she does have groups and does some private work as well. So reach out to her, follow her first of all on social media, but then shoot her an email maybe after the show. There's all of her information. You can go to her website, northstarleadershipschool.com. So going into the break, Annie, I mentioned if we don't put an emphasis on every part of what I call the triangle of life theory, the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and one part of that is off, how do we ever get back balanced, right? So what emphasis do you play on each one of those?
Well, I got to tell you, I really believe that if you want to make a change in your life, it's not just about the mental, emotional, and spiritual. There's really this other neurochemical component, right? Because all of our brains typically work at 3 to 5% of where they could be because we are low in things like serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine. What I found about 7 years ago was I found this little company that had created a beautiful way to calm the nervous system, which allows you to have more neuroplasticity to create a better life for yourself. So once I found that, I was like, there's got to be a faster track here than doing all the intellectual and emotional work. And there is. There's a company that I've worked with for 7 years now that is just blowing my mind on how well they calm the nervous system. So if you're listening and you have, you have trauma, you have things you want to work on, but your mind races and you can't really pause or calm or sit down and just take a break for a moment. A lot of that has to do with a nervous system issue. And so you can do in your path to, oh gosh, did they?
You froze up a little bit. Repeat the last 10 seconds.
I was just saying that the nervous system is really the biggest reset to getting more of what you want in life. Because most of us, whether we know it or not, because of trauma from when we were young, we have this fight or flight that takes over sometimes. It forces us into that, frantic reactivity. And from what I've learned, the most important thing we can do is calm our nervous system. And so I found a company about 7 years ago that has helped me do that and helped me with my clients do that as well.
How much emphasis do you put on meditation or prayer?
Well, prayer, I think, is very important. I think for a lot of us, though, out there, meditation is very difficult with how quickly our minds are spinning and how many loops we're caught in, right? So there are a lot of people that tell me, Annie, I just can't meditate. I'm like, great, well, here's another solution, because most of us just don't feel sometimes we have the time to sit down. So if you can't pray or if you can't meditate, there is something else that can calm your system that gives you an advantage for this mental and emotional clarity that you want.
When people start to get into the panic attacks, the anxiety, the stress, and they're spiraling out of control, how do you even begin to get them to stop the right, the chest breathing, to get that down into where their diaphragm is breathing, they're calming themselves, as you mentioned, to try to calm this can be your greatest enemy or your best friend, and a lot of times it works against people, right? So how do you even begin to take them through the beginning steps of calming?
Well, again, right, the beginning step is always breath, right? So you want to calm your breath. Everyone knows this technique, but I'll say it again. It's where you breathe out slowly 4 seconds and then you breathe in slowly for 4 seconds. And you do that for 4 to 5 different breaths. Another great technique that I love is you hold your finger, and each part of your hand represents different emotions. So one hand is emotional release, the other hand is bring positive emotions. So you can hold a finger for a breath in and out, hold the next finger in and out, hold the next finger. And if you do this, you want to run 3 sets of 10, but it really calms your nervous system to sit and focus on that breath in and out and holding that finger through the entire breath series.
Huh.
So it's really powerful. It also really resets you if you travel internationally, because it creates a possibility for you not to go into jet lag in that whole experience. So I have tons of different techniques that I use, but honestly, I like the fast track. So when I found the company that had these sprays that calm you immediately, organically, I was like, yes, that could be such a win for people, right? Because when you amp up and you start feeling like everything's taking over, you know what that feels like in your chest. And sometimes it's hard to even remember to breathe.
Yeah.
So this is where start with your breath, then do your finger holds if you can. From finger holds, think that question, what do I want to be true? And then live into that truth, because truth always will make your life easier.
Set you free, Annie. We said it before. Again, North Star. So it's finding your true north, finding that center, getting yourself, balanced again and centered again. And we're telling you, it's not going to happen overnight. Your trauma, all of the baggage that you want to call it, the debris, all of that you've carried forward is not going to happen overnight. Is that one of the hardest things that you have to impress upon people?
Well, I think the hardest thing that I tell them is that we're going to have a big breakthrough in the first hour of working together. And the work then comes after that first hour. Once you see it, it feels like this massive breakthrough. There's so much hope. But then we have to do the practical steps every day to rewire those patterns. So yes, it takes a bit of time, but there's no reason why with a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, a little bit of support, you can't work through a lot of it. Now, the trauma itself is not going to leave, but the way that the trauma impacts you negatively is going to reduce in timing. So some people at the beginning are stuck in trauma for weeks and even months, I've seen. And then as we start doing the work, the trauma pattern goes all the way down to only impacting them for 10 to 15 minutes. And that's a huge win.
I also want to know how much of an emphasis you put on journaling, taking it out of here and putting it down and then seeing it on paper.
Well, a lot of people that I work with, they're not big journalers, right? So I have to have different techniques other than just journaling. And I think everyone hears that journaling is really helpful. It is. But there's some other techniques that if you're not a big journaler, you also need to be aware of, right? So there's expression. People can record themselves talking out loud so they don't have to write it down. And what I do is I give them very specific exercises to do that are specific for their brain only, because I think journaling is a great catch-all for everyone if you want to be writing down and reflecting. But I think for some people's brains, that just isn't what works for them. So you have to have a lot of different techniques when you work with so many different people.
So folks, again, she's given us so much information in this hour. Now it's time to evolve the leader within. Stop wasting time. Today can be your day. And again, don't beat yourself up if you hadn't done it until today, because at any point it's time for you to make that shift. And have you listened to the words that Annie uses? These are the things that we know work better. If you're not leading yourself clearly and consciously, you're not leading at all. And becoming that leader, not always the follower. Sometimes we do have to follow. We're like little sponges of, this is what I want more of in my life. And then suddenly you become the leader and other people are watching you and you're inspiring them. But I love the fact that you use the word shift You also, if you paid attention, just heard her switch from but to and. We know these things. We know that people take them better. For some reason, people still have an aversion to the word change. So it's softer to hear shifts. Talk about that, by the way, from the brain and the chemicals that are used in the brain, the neuroscience and the neuroplasticity aspect of certain words and the way people consume them.
Well, I think, for all of us, using and instead of but is a great thing to start using in our language. And I always like to use the phrases instead of I need to do this, I will shift it up and say I get to do this. I
Mhm.
am blessed to do this, right? Because if you think about it, I need to is way down here vibrationally. I get to is wow, I have this opportunity to do this for myself. I am blessed to is wow, something higher than me is giving me access to more energy, more power, more freedom that allows me to have this great life. So if you can change up some of your words, take the but, make it an and, take a I need to, which creates an obligation, into I get to or I am blessed to.
Yeah, blessed. I love that word. One more slide that I want to go through, and I showed it a little earlier. So this is Emotional Mastery and Leadership Accelerator Program. Break this one down for us.
So when I looked at all the entrepreneurs, all the business owners, all the people I was helping, I really realized that it's about mastering your emotional state in order to be the best leader you can possibly be. And so we're never taught that, right? We're not taught our how to dive into EQ as, when we're in high school or in college even, right? This is something that you either learn or you don't. And so for all the entrepreneurs and all the women and business owners that are out there, I'm like, if we can take this emotional mastery piece, add it to your leadership learning, all of a sudden now you become unstoppable because we finally looked at what was blocking your ability to have emotional mastery for yourself. And that's always going back to the subconscious.
It's fantastic. And again, I'll end with this particular one. As you take these steps, 5 programs for rapid transformation: mindset development, conscious awareness, subconscious awareness, building ambition, finding purpose. I mean, that's an entire show we've done before, and we could probably do every single day. What's your purpose? And then how do you even find it? I don't know how many times people have been asked that, Annie, of what's your purpose? And they all go, I have no idea.
Well, let me tell you, Monica, it is the most frustrating thing for me because if you don't know your purpose and you don't have a very specific statement for it, then the filter in your brain is filtering out the things that would lead you to your purpose.
Yeah.
So I run a very specific purpose session for individuals because I'm like, we have to get rid of whatever that old filter was that was contributing negatively to you not finding your purpose first. And then we get to reset with this is the new filter that every single decision goes through in your mind. So when people leave that session, they have all the questions that they need to ask themselves to keep them on the right track towards their North Star, which is their true purpose in life.
And that's what we're all seeking, folks. Again, so many things that Annie can help you with. Leadership transformation. Again, if you want to reach out to her, this is how you find her. The website, northstarleadershipschool.com. Annie at northstarleadershipschool.com is her email, phone number, and then where to follow her online. You're in town with a ton of different interviews. And let me just go ahead and give a shout out to my coworkers. There are so many shows that you've been on. Have you already taped some of those? I think
I did 2 yesterday. Yes.
2 yesterday. Were you on Zach and Pat's show?
Zach and Pat. Yes.
So for those of you that may have seen that, I was on Zach and Pat's show a handful of weeks ago. Please follow them. I want you to follow every one of the people, or go to Punchline Productions on YouTube. You can see all these wonderful shows. I'm excited to see and hear how different people ask different questions and what they bring out. It's always fun. How long are you in town?
I'm here till Friday. And then
Okay. Again, we told her she's got to get pizza, ravioli, and a concrete from Ted Drew's. I hope they're treating you well.
They are treating me well.
Okay, good. Marilyn said, but I think that is my problem, Annie, is my purpose is to help others, and I put their needs in front of mine. I'm a people pleaser.
All right. So this is really important, Marilyn. I'm talking directly to you. So the problem is that when we put our say we're going to help all these other people, we're actually self-sacrificing in a way that does not allow our body, mind, heart, and soul to feel and receive love. And so it's really important that every time you go to people please someone else or you go to help someone else, you first support yourself, pour that love into yourself so we can balance out some of this people pleasing, because it just builds resentment internally between you and a younger version of yourself.
Yep. And again, here's the thing, and I've known Marilyn for a while now. She's watched our show for the last couple of years, and I love it. She's a diehard. She and many others, they call themselves Monica's Maniacs. I want you to understand that there are many of us that are people pleasers, right? We may have watched our fathers, our mothers be them, our grandparents, and we repeat that pattern. But, and it comes from a loving side, but people who are people pleasers do get exhausted.
They do. And we don't want you to burn out, Marilyn. We want all that amazing energy that is you to be in this world. And so we have to make sure there's an equal give and take. It's like a tennis match. If you want to people please, you hit that tennis ball over to that person. They get to hit it back to you before you take another action. That way it's more balanced in that experience. And there's more fair exchange as to the energy that's being passed.
Or it might be pickleball.
Well,
Have you ever played that, by the way?
I love it.
Okay, everybody's jumped on the bandwagon but me. I've been with someone who taught us a little bit on one particular day on a retreat, but everyone's like, "What? You would love it, Monica." Here's the thing: I need Annie to get me to slow down in life to be able to do that. Right, my friend. Thank you. I'm so glad we were able to do this. Annie and I were supposed to be in person, but I had an eye issue, which is why I've been wearing my glasses the entire time. So thank you for shifting for me and coming to us this way. This is the beauty of technology for us to be able to do this. I'm going to let Annie choose. So at the end, we always do our devotional. Do you feel Jesus calling or Jesus listens?
Oh, Jesus listens.
Jesus listens. All right, Jesus listens it is. Thank you, Annie, so very much for being our guest. And again, folks, if you didn't get a chance to get your question in, Stephanie, you're welcome. And Stephanie earlier said she's going to get those books. So thank you for that. I wish you the best in town, and hopefully we get a chance to see each other in person before you have to head back out.
I would love that so much.
All right, folks, Annie Yatch, again, reach out to her and ask her any questions if you didn't get a chance to ask live. We're going to wrap up with Jesus Listens when we return. We want to thank, by the way, Spas and More for coming on board with us. If you didn't know, they're another one of our big sponsors. And we more
When we partnered with Michael Phelps back in 2012, Master Spas became partners with Michael because he, at that time, was looking for a competitive edge. He had just got silver in his signature event at the Olympics. Obviously, we know he wasn't happy about that at all because when it comes to the butterfly, he is gold medal all the way. So he started taking looks at swim spas across the board. Ended up focusing with Master Spa, and then we created the Michael Phelps Signature Swim Spa. That partnership has now turned into a line of hot tubs called the Michael Phelps Legends Series that's designed for not only relaxation, but athletic recovery. That's the one where you saw the lounger that had the contours and the jets going completely down the legs. Is designed for those athletes, runners especially, to be able to recoup, to get their muscles to bounce back after a run or after a marathon or anything that they're doing. And then it's also evolved into our cold plunge tubs and our infrared saunas because Michael, as you know, has done everything to train to become the top swimmer in the world. And then, but the other side of Michael is his mental health issues that he's had.
Yes.
His ADHD that he had growing up. We know him for his infamous picture with the bong, and we know him for his DUI in between Olympics. But there's a side to him that we've been fortunate to find out and learn from him about his mental health struggles and how not only does swimming help him, but cold plunging and using the saunas help him as well.
we're talking about those, there you go. That is the cold plunge. They call that the chilly goat. And then they have the sweaty goat. So if you're into the sauna side, you're into maybe the cold plunging, or you just want to know more about the swim spas, the hot tubs that they have. If you've been wanting to pull the trigger, how about you help out those that support us? Again, that's how this show is able to come to you day in and day out, is thanks to you for watching, and thanks again to those that support us. So spas again, Angie, for being a part of it. All right, folks, this is in the wrap up. So Annie picked Jesus Listens. We'd like to bring in a little faith for you at the end. So July 23rd, my King. Your thoughts are not my thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are your ways and your thoughts higher than mine. So help me to rejoice as I ponder how great you are. I marvel at the wonder of being able to commune with you, the King of the universe, anytime, any place. Please don't ever let me take this amazing prayer privilege for granted. Even you are infinitely higher and greater than I am. You're training me to think your thoughts. As I spend time in your presence, reading your word and praying, your thoughts gradually form in my mind. I realize that your spirit is the director of this process. He guides my mind while I'm waiting in your presence, making plans or mulling over problems. Sometimes he brings specific Bible verses to mind just when I need them the most. These communications strengthen me and prepare me for whatever's before me on my life path, Lord. Spending time with you has blessed me far more than I dared to ask or even imagine. That Jesus Listens from Sarah Young from our wonderful Marilyn, by the way. She knew I wanted to end with devotionals, so Marilyn gave us Jesus Calling, Jesus Listens, and I greatly appreciate that. When I'm on set, people always ask, what are those books you read from? Those are 100 Days to Freedom books from Stephen Arterburn, who we absolutely love. Well, Annie was a wonderful guest. If there's ever a guest you would like for us to bring on, shoot me an email, by the way, info@therealmonicaadams.com. If you are saying, oh my gosh, I love this show, I want to become a sponsor just like all these other people, shoot me an email there as well. If you know that there is a place you would like for us to do a mobile Monica from, where we take the show on the road, email me about that as well. So the T-Spout, again, on the 31st in Chesterfield, that's our next one, and we're starting to line more up for the month of August. Tomorrow, we've got two wonderful guests. We're going to talk. They actually have a retreat coming up in September. I was so wanting to make this with my husband, but we are actually going to be leaving, unfortunately, right around that exact same time. So we're going to talk about their retreat, and then we're going to talk about this wonderful health that they are helping everybody with in the world. Excelsior Health, Dr. Ryan and Abby, they will be my guests tomorrow. And then on Friday, a little foodie Friday with one of my all-time favorite restaurants, Trattoria Marcella, and we'll be visiting with Chef Nathan Hatch and the owner, Steve Komarek. So a wonderful week on tap for you, and we'll just keep going into next week, where we have Jenny Gabriel on Monday talking about you ladies, and men for that matter, but women for sure from the hormonal standpoint. It's always a big topic. So get your questions ready for her. Perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. You're just not yourself. She gets it, and she's going to help you. So some big shows ahead. Love you all. Remember, I always ask you to dream big, be anything you've ever wanted to be, but the greatest thing you can be is kind. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow morning.